We're getting ready to do solo RPG today. It is session 37. I think that's right. I'm pretty sure that's right. I'm pretty sure that's what I wrote down. So we're gonna drop in and get sort of like straight into playing what we missed last time. So let's go ahead and do that. So let's see. And pull this up. We'll look over the recap and hop right into it because we got a lot to do because we're gonna start our dungeon delve today. So we got our new sort of iterative dungeon thing that we're gonna try out. So hopefully that's gonna go well. So let's pull that up. So we finished that long rest. We set the travel pace. We followed the hound to the Master Hermit's hut for some trade. We did some trade because we weren't able to do that previously at the market because they didn't really have the supplies we were looking for. But the Hermit had some supplies, so we traded some things. Got some information about the Goblin base. The Hermit was able to point us like directly at them. At the base, which was nice because we kind of had a sort of search area we were looking at, and luckily he helped sort of like narrow that down to almost specifically where we were looking for. He took a look at the platinum pieces that we have uncovered at this point, that we have that sort of unknown minting, so we don't really know where they're from. And he was able to tell us that he recognized them as they were from sort of like the foreign nation that's sort of to the northwest of us. And so we're not really sure what the... Like, if they're bankrolling, if it seems like they're sort of bankrolling the Goblin, Orc, and Gnoll alliance. We're not really sure what's going on with that. So that's part of the reason why we're going to jump into the Oasis delve, and we're going to try to figure that out once we're infiltrating there. We're hoping that when we get in there, we're going to be able to find some of those sort of foreign nationals agents who might be able to give us some more information. And we don't know if any of this is going to be tied to the sort of dragon organization that has been sort of the backbone of Leah's major headaches for this campaign. So we'll have to see if that's also part of it. Right, we still have the assassins out there. We have a bunch of other things going on. So we're going to have to figure out if any of these things are related. Hopefully, at least for us running the game from sort of the meta perspective, we're going to hope that some of those frayed ends start to weave together. That would be very helpful for us. But we're going to have to see once we get in there. Right, we got interrupted by assassins looking for Arias. We don't know why they were looking for Arias. I mean, other than they're trying to kill Arias, and we know that, but we're not sure why they thought Arias was with us at this point. So they must be operating off of old information at this point. So we killed one, and the other one ran off. We got a little bit of loot, not much. We headed out to the foothills. We saw that goblin camp. Here, I can show you the foothills. So yeah, we headed out here. We headed out, so there's the foothills. Alright, so we're here, but we stopped there. Sort of in the in-between getting there. So we were able to find the goblin camp, took an extended rest there. There's a shrine there. We met with a Gnoll group who was coming to give an offering at that shrine that we were camping at. And we found out that they were, at least they told us that they were unaffiliated with the sort of conglomeration, the confederacy of the goblin camp itself. So we're not sure if they were telling the truth or not. We think so, but again, Ott was really the only one who could communicate with them, because she's the only one who, of course, speaks Gnoll. If we had a different party composition where you come across this Gnoll group, that probably would have been a combat instead of a sort of a social encounter. But we happen to have a Gnoll in our party. Ott's our guide, rangerish kind of expert, tracker, and she was able to sort of speak with them, converse with them, and let them know, you know, that we weren't hostile and we could get a little bit more information. So, under the cover of night, after our extended rest, we approached up and we took out some sentries. We were able to pull one away alive. We were just able to get the rest of them killed without that patrol killed without raising any alarms. It was very close shave that we almost got caught, and that would have gone very poorly for us. So we don't want that. But luckily we did some good rolls. I think we had to use one of Leah's inspirations, her existing inspiration to get it taken out, but we did that. They gave us a good idea of sort of the camp layout and the numbers of enemies. We don't have sort of firm numbers for that. I haven't created firm numbers for that, but basically that means that we shouldn't be really surprised by what we find in there. We have a sort of an idea. And we do know they were able to tell us that foreign faction is expected to arrive soon. As far as we know, based off of this goblin's information, they are not in sort of the ruined Oasis area at this time, but they should be arriving soon. We did release that one goblin and told him to travel to the Swamp Hermit's hut. As far as we're concerned, and sort of the vibe we got from the Swamp Hermit is that he's very open to creatures of all shapes and sizes. The hermit would help heal him from the damage that we did to him, and also, you know, be able to provide him some food and water, some rest, and be able to sort of point him in a new direction to go, because going back to the Oasis is probably going to be a death sentence for him. So we're just letting that goblin go. It's our clemency for this. This is our peaceful approach, right? We didn't just straight up execute that goblin, because presumably we're good characters. I mean, we've killed a lot of people, but presumably we're good characters. So then we are sneaking up on the goblin base to begin our assault, and that's pretty much where we stopped. And I said that I was going to do the iterative dungeon aspect, so that's what we've done. I worked on that sort of over the, I guess, 2 weeks at this point. We're going to use that. We're going to see how it goes. It might be a little slow, so just heads up. I'm still kind of working on it, trying to work out most of the kinks, but I've done a few sort of solo delve, kind of push things out and kind of playtest a little bit, so I think it's going to work all right. We're gonna see it. If you want to see what that kind of looks like, the room chambers, I just put up a video this past week, so you can go check that out on the YouTube channel. Let's go back up here, because what we need to do, so this was all our last session, so we need to take all this out. So we're infiltrating goblin, I mean technically it's goblin orc gnoll base. Foreign faction to arrive soon. We don't know when that is, but we do know that they're coming soon. Of course, if you guys have any questions about any of this stuff, like as I'm going through it, just leave a comment and then I'll try to address that too. And if you guys want to see more about sort of how I construct this stuff, I can do that too. So we're sneaked up on the goblin camp. We're looking for the evidence connecting them to the orcs, the platinum pieces, and the wagon attacks. That's sort of our main reason for getting in here. I guess at this point, we need to go ahead and hop into our very first room of our dungeon, because we're going to sneak in. This is tabletopaudio.com, really great resource. There's a ton of great free music to use, so check it out. It's super good for using for sessions and for, you know, obviously doing some stream stuff. Usually it's in the background, but we got a whole bunch of tabs open this time. So our first room, what was sort of the first, and the room dungeon, this whole sort of complex is going to be kind of a dungeon. So we're gonna have, but it is a ruined oasis kind of research facility, kind of small village kind of aspect. So there's going to be a lot of, it's not necessarily a straightforward, we go from one room down the corridor into a next room. It's more of a point crawl kind of dungeon. That works out really well for this. So I'm going to have to, I looked at a few different mapping resources, and I'm going to end up mapping it just kind of by hand. That ended up being the best way. I looked at a few different sort of ways that I could put it on screen, but I didn't really like any of the things that I came across that wouldn't add a whole bunch more work sort of on my side while I'm also trying to juggle all the rest of the solo RPG. So I'm just going to map it by hand, and we're just going to do our best. So what is our sort of first room scene area? What's that going to be? What is the size of this room? So let's roll d6. Right, so it's a small room. Small area. So basically a small area is anything that we should be able to get into. We should be able to get from, reach anything within it, basically within a move. So within 30 feet or so, we should be able to reach anything. Which means that we should be in range. Most creatures, if we run into creatures, should be in range for spells and things like that. Any sort of ranged attacks without any sort of long range penalties, etc. Small, and a few different themes that are kind of going on, which is basically based off of the originator. And I think it's going to be like a D4 theme, so it could be the ancient city or ancient facility. It could be goblins. Could be gnolls. Could be orcs. I guess it could be the foreign faction. What I'm going to do, since we have a whole bunch of stuff up here, I'm going to make it like, let's say 1d6 instead. On 1 or 2, it'll be the ancient facility. And then 3, 4, 5, 6. Make life kind of easy on ourselves. Alright, so what we got going on here? Let's go ahead and check it out. Alright, that's gnolls. Alright, so that's sort of, so this is going to be a gnollish kind of room that they've sort of taken over, done their sort of thing on. I also have, again, we already have a lot of moving parts, but I have some stuff. Most of these are pulled from my dungeon creation information or my DM binder information. I just kind of consolidated them all down into a little list. This wouldn't be particularly useful to put up, and I've gone over all of these, so you can find the, if you want to know anything that's in here, such as our room type, that's all in the dungeon creation document. I've already made a video about that. You can go back and take a look at it. If you're looking for a sort of dungeon creation process to kind of build a dungeon by yourself, then you want a little help. It's very similar. It's sort of a cribbed resource from things that have been shown up in if you ever look at the back of like a Dungeon Master's Guide or anything like that, where they have roll tables and things like that for building random dungeons. It's very similar like that. I just kind of cribbed my favorite from a bunch of different systems, of different editions of D&D and Pathfinder, etc., and sort of made my own. So I'm going to roll 2d20, and I'm going to choose either the one I like or try to push them together, if that makes sense. Or what kind of is this area? I'm using room a lot because I'm thinking underground dungeon, but it's really just this area that we're in, scene area. Alright, so an 18 and 14. So it ends up being a hygiene and medical area and a recreation area. Could be like some old baths. That'd be kind of interesting. Not sure Knolls are too well known for sort of their hygiene though. But it could be sort of a rec. Could be sort of, let's say it's like an old school, like an ancient gymnasium, something like that. So it's got sort of the classic sort of Greek Roman style baths, as well as, you know, areas for sort of physical activity, libraries, things like that. It's sort of like it's almost like a kind of community center kind of thing. But it's all sort of falling down. I'm sure the water may or may not be clean at this point. We don't know. We could figure that out. We'll see if that's important. And we'll say sort of like a crumbling gymnasium. Alright, and let's set up a room DC. So this is something that, of course, I pulled from ICRPG, from Runehammer, which is the idea that you basically make a fundamental sort of starting place room DC for, so anything that happens within that room should be around that DC, and then we can kind of pull it up a little bit or pull it down a little bit, kind of depending if we think it should be harder or easier than that DC. And of course, I went around how I made the DCs in my 2d6 favorite 2d6 table, so if you want to check that out, then you will be able to interpret this along with me. Ooh, that's a very high DC. That is, let's see, that's a DC 20. Alright, so it's gonna be difficult. Anything that's in here is gonna be difficult. Let's get some dressing. So dressing is just a little flair. Gives a little idea of sort of kind of what's going on in the room with the scene. So 8 and 9. Again, we don't necessarily need to fill all this stuff out, but it is kind of fun. Kind of adds a little flavor. I like it, so I'll keep doing it, unless I feel like it's really going to slow us down. Alright, so 8 is something breaks with interaction, and 9, a clue that telegraphs danger. Okay, well, we don't know what the danger is yet. So, but there should be a clue that telegraphs danger in here, and then this, if we mess with the wrong thing, something's going to break. And we did say it was a crumbling gymnasium, so things might have a roof collapse or something. That would be really bad, but we'll see. So we have let's say clue telegraphing danger. Don't know what that's going to be yet. And we are going to have something that breaks with interaction. So we have to be careful if we interact with things in the room, because they might break on us. And what is actually in the room? First thing we need to do is probably make ourselves a little perception check. So we're sort of sneaking up into this first room. Maybe we hear something in there. We'll find out if we hear something in there in a second. And we're just going to make a very basic perception check. Again, I'm going to give her advantage because she has a bunch of people with her and they're all kind of listening. So that way, instead of doing individual rolls for everybody, I'll just give her advantage on it. Which is unfortunate because she, well, actually I'm going to give Aught advantage because she would probably be the one who's a little bit more sneaky and a little bit more perceptive. So she has a +3 to her perception and she'll have advantage. 17, however, does not make our room DC of 20. So if there's anything in there, it might get the drop on us. That's unfortunate. If there's some sort of trap, we might trigger it. We are going to trigger it. Alright, so 1 is empty, and then 4 is some sort of hot, which is hazard, obstacle, trigger, trap. So there's going to be some sort of hazard obstacles, because we said it was crumbling. We don't think it's going to be a trick or trap. It's going to be some sort of environmental, decayed environment that's going to be a problem. So something that we're going to interact with. So what could that be? I think that the easiest thing to say that is it's probably some sort of crumbling floor, and anything that comes with like bath. Like if you've ever looked at any of those sort of old style Roman baths, there's a lot of piping and stuff underneath the floor. That's sort of how they work. So I think that there's so a bunch of sort of like broken mosaic tile flooring that's all scattered, and all of that's probably set on probably dry rotted wood pillars or pylons. And we're gonna walk in there and we're probably gonna end up falling through it, which is not great. That's not what we want. And the DC for this is very, very high. We did say that Ott's in the lead. Do we think, I'm gonna say this, we need to ask an oracle question. Is this going to be a sort of obstacle that attacks multiple people? Or is this an obstacle that only attacks one? So basically we need to know how much weight can it hold. Can it hold more than, let's say, more than one person's weight? No. Okay, so Ott's going to be the first person in there. She's going to step on a dry rod spot, and it's going to immediately crack under her. So she needs to make a dexterity saving throw, or else she's going to fall through the floor and take a little bit of damage. So again, the DC is very high, and I don't think this should be an easy check, so I'm not going to lower the DC any. So she's probably going to take a double. yeah, that's a 15. So she does. So we'll say that she falls 10 feet, so she's going to take a d6 damage. Alright, so she takes 4 damage as she sort of falls through the floor. So we have our exit behind us, and then we've entered this room, and she fell down through the floor, and there's probably not going to be a check. We have plenty of time to sort of get her out of that. But unfortunately, we are making noise, and we are going to take some time here, so we need to see if there's going to be some sort of random encounter. Does anybody come across us? Because we're kind of making noise. No. Okay. So we seem to be safe right now. Maybe people know... Being this is such an ancient city, and it's sort of crumbling, this sort of stuff might kind of happen all the time. There's all sorts of weird sounds that it makes. It kind of falls down around us. It's not uncommon. So we crawl into this ancient bath to get sort of a look around, and it crumbles. We try to grab Ott. We aren't able to grab her, and she falls down into sort of the piping layer below and hurts herself a little bit. And then we have to probably lower a rope to pull her back out. So we get her back up in here, and when we all kind of go silent, kind of look around, see if anybody comes running. Nobody's come running yet, though. And so we feel okay for the moment. Alright, so that's sort of our first scene. Doesn't look like there's any problem. We're going to take a little time. I think gymnasiums are usually baths and gymnasiums are relatively tall buildings, so I think we'll, I'm not going to spend the time to do an athletics check. I think there's probably ways to get up there that's probably fairly easy onto a second level or something like that, like a mezzanine level. Well, we say that, but we did say that that's going to be difficult to interact with, but I do think it's going to be potentially useful for us to get maybe a better lay of the land if we do that. So somebody's going to give it a climb up. I think that will be... actually, it's gonna be Odd again. So she will try to scramble up. We say that, but the DC is so high is that I think she takes a look at it, and it's pretty easy to tell. Like the timbers are all dry rotted, the pillars are all sort of crumbling and askew. That she's worried that if she tries to climb up that thing, even if she gets up there, that whole sort of mezzanine section is going to collapse, and that'll bring more people in. And they've already made some noise, so they want to get a better lay of the land, but then they decide, we don't have enough time. We probably need to keep moving if we want to stay kind of stealth. So, alright, that's going to be our first scene. So let's look at potential rooms that are kind of going out of here. Alright, so that would be 1, 2, 3, 4. Alright, well that's not going to work. Alright, so 5 is actually down, which is interesting. So we kind of look around and kind of poke out through the doors, kind of look down the streets. We're not seeing a lot of movement or a lot of signs of anybody here. It's very interesting. And we do kind of look at that, and then that's like, well, I did see perhaps an underground passage through the pipes. There might be sort of an underground area. all these people are pretty used to sort of this sort of very sun-baked lifestyle. So let's ask the Oracle, is having underground sort of tunnels and passages to get back and forth to stay out of the sun kind of normal? The same way that sort of colder environments in sort of the modern day have underground tunnels so people don't have to go outside during the winter when it was really, really cold and like let all the heat out of buildings. I think that's pretty extremely likely. Yeah. So the idea is, since that's going to be such an exceptional yes, it's like yes, and we believe that's actually a much more stable area than probably these above ground buildings. So if we go down and use the passages underground, if depending on how far we can get through them, we think that that's less likely the building's going to collapse on top of us if we try to interact with it. As we just saw right now happens, right? We just fell through the floor, so we'll use the pipes and go through the underground passage. So what does that doorway look like? Oh, it's just a absolutely open doorway. Do we want to take the time to search for secrets and exits? I guess so. We're already in here. Let's go ahead and give an investigation check. Leah's probably going to be the best at that. And again, we'll give her advantage because she's kind of looking around. Yeah, because she's going to have a +5 to that. So it is possible she might find something here. Natural 20. Nice. Alright, so if there is anything here, they definitely find it. But because they are spending a little bit more time here, we do need to roll. Okay, so nobody shows up. We don't have to worry anything about that. So no sort of patrolling group shows up or finds them, despite the amount of noise they've made at this point. Alright, so let's look. So to the left, we're going to find a secret or exit. No. In front of us, no. To the right of us, no. And then up. No. Alright. So we didn't find it. So no secrets or exits. Sorry, this is the document I have in my hands, just if you were wondering. But as you can see, it's pretty dense. I haven't sort of set it out to be a little bit more user-friendly. It's very compact. So we go down into that passage underground. Does anything pop out of our passage as we're kind of moving through it? Nope. Alright, so the passage seems pretty safe. There's not any obstacles, there's not any traps. There's not any wandering monsters that are down there. We don't come across anything like that. No wandering encounters. So we go through the underground passage without any issues. And we're going to come out into another sort of room scene area. It's going to be another small one. And what's going to be the theme there? So we had the theme that we didn't really use the theme a lot because nothing ended up being in there. But if so, we could have said that that there are signs that the gnolls are probably like broken out windows, or maybe they scat in there, tufts of fur, right, molting, things of that nature. It just didn't end up being important to the scene itself, but it was there. And so let's see our theme for this one. 4. It's 4 gnolls again, right? And so 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, so it's gnolls again. And then let's see what's our room look like. And actually, since I have it up, I'll go ahead and show this. So 16 and 9. So 9 is some sort of display area. And 16 is a security point. Okay, so I think that this is an area where there's going to be some sort of gnoll camp or gnoll sort of like outrider camp, probably. Where maybe it's like a checkpoint, right, to sort of do that. So it's going to be a checkpoint, but it's also a display area. And a display area can be anything sort of like an art gallery, statuary, fountain. Let's say it's a fountain. Like there's a nice sort of like we went through an underground passage, maybe we come back up out into the air, into this middle area. Or maybe it's sort of like a, let's say it's actually an underground, like, not like a knot. I forget what they're called. They're sort of like an evaporative cooler thing that's used in the desert, that's used sort of like an ice house. So something like that, but let's say there's like a really nice fountain in it, but these gnolls have sort of taken it over, and they've sort of turned it into their sort of security point, or at least it looks like. We'll see if there's any creatures actually here. But that's what we're gonna go with. So they have sort of a, and it probably has like a little tiny circular hole, sort of like Pantheon style, that lets light in, but still retains most of the underground cooling. And I guess camp's probably the best word for it, even though it's more like a checkpoint. Let's say checkpoint, because at this point we're still kind of what we consider sort of the outlier of the facility. And just overall, I think we talked about this last time, but if we didn't, let me just make sure. I'm kind of, my target right here, and we'll just put it up here. So we're targeting about 13 rooms or scenes. So they should fill probably, it could be maybe 3 sessions of sort of our adventure. It kind of depends on how quickly we kind of get through stuff. But that's sort of how many scenes we're going to have until we sort of hit what's going to be sort of the climax of this dungeon. So you have this underground fountain with its sort of like smooth sandstone interior. Probably has a lot of sort of really sort of faded and sort of peeling frescoes and things on the inside. Sort of, I'm thinking like a half dome that comes up to that little circle that lets in light from the top. Of course, it's still nighttime at this point, so it's very cool. Probably nice cool air is kind of being sucked in, sort of like a negative flow air current, so it's kind of pulling in that cool air. And the rock itself is still, or the stone itself around it is probably like radiates a little bit of warmth, but probably not a ton. It's probably kind of chilly in here. So that's kind of what's going on in the room. So let's do a little dungeon dressing. See what that kind of looks like. 11 and 2. So water. Hey, we already said there was a fountain in here, so that does that. Maybe it's overflowed, so there's more water than usual, so it's kind of all over the floor. Maybe they've the gnolls being who they are, maybe they've sort of stopped up the outflow, and now it's actually getting kind of maybe it's a little bit more damp and sort of muggy, a little bit of muggy because of that radiating heat. So we have the cool breeze that's coming in, but it's also still kind of muggy around the walls, because it's still got that evaporative effect from the walls radiating heat. Maybe condensation along it, things of that nature. What else did we roll? A 2. Grime, mold, yeah. So this is gonna be a dirty fountain. So they may be using this as like a latrine. It probably doesn't smell good in here. So let's go ahead and add that. So it's water. So muggy, condensation. Let's say it's turned into gnoll latrine. So it smells very bad. Gnolls are kind of dirty creatures for the most part, so they're probably not that concerned with it. But this does not seem like it's safe drinking water by any means. DC 17, and then what's in the room? Ooh, 5 and 5. All right. 17. 5 means that there is creatures X2. I think these are probably just going to be gnolls, or they could be gnolls and probably not giant hyenas, probably just normal hyenas. Since this is sort of like the patrolling outer perimeter. So we're going to sneak up on them, and hopefully we're going to pass that stealth check. We're going to use Ott, since she's the leader. And she'll make her sneak up around the corner as the passage sort of enters into there. We have sort of the moonlight coming in and framing everything. They're probably kind of snoozing, taking it easy in there, I'm going to guess, for probably. But let's see if we get the sneak on there. So we'll give her a sneak. She needs to beat a 17, which she definitely does not with a 2 on the die. So I think we start sneaking up, and like I said, they're probably gnolls and hyena. And the hyenas are kind of sleeping with their paws and then pop up their heads, because they've got a little bit more sensitive hearing and smell. and start looking in our direction. And I mean, we're probably going to get into a combat here. I don't think it's going to go any other way. I mean, she's in the front. She could try to bluff him, but it is really not. That is not Ott's specialty. Since we're not technically in control of Ott, let's ask Ott. Is Ott going to try to bluff her way in? No. All right. She's not, which makes sense. She has a whole bunch of people behind her who are clearly not part of the sort of goblin orc gnoll thing. They don't look like the foreign faction because we don't know what they look like. And she has like 0 talkie skills, and she has a -1 on her charisma. So she is not the right person for this job. She knows that, and as they sneak up, she's probably going to take a shot, but they're already alerted, so people are already starting to look up because the hyena have been disturbed because we failed our stealth check. So it's going to be just sort of a straightforward fight. But let's look at what that's going to look like. 4 level 4s, because again, Crash Dish we're not using him as a combatant, so he's just kind of hanging out in the back. He's sort of our goblin translator, goblin orc translator. And then of course we have Ott, who could speak Gnoll, so we can talk to any of the creatures that should be here, except for maybe the foreigners, because we don't know what they speak. But we should be able to talk to anybody. So let's say, so I'm going to add a hyena in here. Let's add some gnolls in here. I think just basic gnolls. Let's figure out how many gnolls are in there first, because otherwise we're going to have a very long protracted combat, and I don't think this already seems like too big of a number. Having 4 gnolls and 8 hyena in there. So actually, let's ask the Oracle. Is it mostly hyena? Probably. Yeah. Okay, that's probably, it's almost totally hyena, actually. So it's going to be hyena, and I think we're not going to go with giant hyena because we went through a pretty narrow underground passage, so I don't think they'll be able to fit in there. So I think it's just normal hyena. It has to be medium or smaller creatures. And then I guess a D4 of how many gnolls are in here, because we have so many. Okay, so there's 3 gnolls, and then everything else is going to be hyena. Alright, so let's do that. So 3 gnolls, and then how much does it take us to get up into basically a deadly... Okay, good lord. So we'll roll a 1d20, I guess, to figure out how many hyena are actually in here. 8. Okay. I like that. It shouldn't be too difficult of combat, and I also just don't want it to run on too long. Especially because we're probably going to end up going through multiples of these. This is a pretty medium fight. Shouldn't be much of a problem. Hopefully. Fingers crossed. Alright, but that is what we're looking at. So let's go here. Let's go here. Let's go back up to our combat tractor. Alright, so the gnolls have they're going to have a static 11. Perfect. And they have 5 hit points, yeah. Hyena are not much of a threat. Which is why we would end up with so many of them. So these guys are going to go on 11, and then the hyenas are also going to go on 11. And how many did we say there are? There's 8 of them, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So they're a little bit tougher. Alright, let's roll some initiatives. So remember, we only had to get an 11 or higher, so hopefully everybody goes in the fast round. That would be nice. So just go down. Great. Everybody's going in front. 19, 18, 12, 16. So the only people that are going to change is that Delg's going to go... Actually, it's set up exactly how I have it in here. It's going to be Leah, Ott, Delg, and then Imbar. Leah is first. She's probably just going to use... I think she's just going to use a... Leah is instead going to do a firebolt. Against, I think, a hyena. Let's try to thin out the numbers first. Yeah, that's going to hit all day. 18 on the die. For a rousing 1 point of damage. Minimum damage. You hate it. You hate to see it. Alright, this hyena goes from 5 hit points to 4 hit points. Wow. Alright, well, what are you gonna do? Alright, it is, it's our girl Ott. She's gonna take a couple shots with her longbow. Which, she has a much better chance, I guess, of killing these things. So she'll go against the hurt one. Yeah, she'll hit that. The second one, pretty sure that's going to hit. I'm not even going to look, but I can imagine that they have a 16 AC. So the first one, certainly dead. Second one, also dead. So she just takes out 2 with the longbow, just boom, boom, real quick. That'll do it. So she takes out this first one that Leah hit with her fire. And certainly everybody's awake at this point. Like, the gnolls are fully paying attention now. There's fire that streaks across sort of this shadowed moon, kind of hazy, moonlit, underground semicircle fountain area. And there's a yelp of one of the hyenas, and then arrows fly through the darkness and slap into 2 bodies, and they still. And we're in it to win it. Delg will sling. Delg is not a fighter, but you never know. I mean, he surprises us. But he's gonna hit. I mean, he literally cannot kill one of these things. He cannot do enough damage, and he will do minimum damage. It's a very Rudy style character. Delg's more of a healer, right? He's a lover, not a fighter. But you know, sometimes he gets lucky. I mean, I guess he could crit and technically kill one of these creatures, but he doesn't have any bonus damage. So then he kind of moves to the back. Obviously, Delg moves to the back, and then it's gonna be Imbar's turn. I think Imbar is going to. She is going to push up to the front, and she's going, like we said, it's a 5-foot passage in, and she's going to sort of bulwark into almost the front of that passage. So she's going to make them have to come into the tunnel to fight her, and she is going to pull out the warhammer, pick up the shield, and just sort of take that front position and just kind of hold it, so only one of them can attack her at a time, and kind of funnel them in, very sort of a 300 style, right? We're kind of pulling them in so they can't use their numbers against us. I think she's about to take probably a lot of attacks, so I think she's going to take the dodge action instead. So she'll take the dodge action. Alright, that's Noel's turn. Noel's, I believe, will... they have a spear. Oh, they have longbows. Yeah, they will shoot longbows. So she's about to take a whole bunch of longbow shots. But she's sort of hurtling up behind that shield, just trying to muscle up, trying to not get hit from longbows, from arrows flying through the night. There are 3 of them. They each fire with disadvantage. That's certainly not going to hit her. That may hit her. What's their bonus to attack? They have a +4? Oh, they have a +3. So no, that's 17. So it just misses. And natural 1 definitely doesn't hit her. Alright, so there's a bunch of arrows that start flying into the tunnel, like bouncing off the ceiling and stuff, and then bouncing off of her shield, sticking into it. And I mean, now there's a ruckus, and like there's sort of like this heavy echo that's in that room because it's such a small space and it's all sandstone, so it's just like lots of sounds of metal and bouncing and things skidding off of it. And now there are dogs barking and all sorts of things that are happening. There are hyena that are barking and doing their little laugh, and they are going to rush forward and attack. Good thing she took dodge, because she's about to take a whole bunch of attacks. She may spend this entire combat actually just dodging. Until we get the numbers down a little bit. Now, as those rush in, only one's going to be able to get to her, really. Well, I guess technically, because 5e is super weird, in that you can move in and attack and move out as long as you don't end within that space. So they can all move in and get out, and then she'll be able to get an opportunity attack. But I think that's what they would do. So all these hyena are, because they're such a group and they're sort of like rabid pack tactics, that they're all sort of like climbing on top of each other trying to snap at her. So they're all going to get an attack, but she'll get at least an opportunity attack on one of them as it moves out. Let's see if she gets hit with any of them. Nope. 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 No. So, right, there's a whole bunch of maws trying to, like, get over her shield and clawing against it, but none of them are going to get it. But one of them will move out, which will give her a chance, so she will get at least an attack on one of them. An opportunity attack as one tries to move out of the way. So she'll take her swing, 20, dirty 20. So, certainly. And that is enough to kill one of them. It doesn't really matter which one, so let's just say the hurt one. That's fighters doing their fighter thing. Doing exactly what they're supposed to be doing. So she sits in the front, like, just couches herself behind that shield, and just taking blows. To no sort of negative effects, which is great. That could have gone really poorly. That was a good choice to use the dodge action. And she's really their only target, because everybody else is behind her in the tunnel. They can technically shoot over her, but then everybody's got cover. Basically at that point. Then yeah, everybody's got dark vision on our team. No, Imbar doesn't, sorry. Imbar doesn't, because Imbar is a human. I guess technically she would have needed to roll with disadvantage, because we don't have a light. I'm going to let it pass, but I'll try to remember that for next time. Alright, so it's back up at the top, that's Leah. Leah's going to shoot another firebolt. That works. I mean, it should deal enough damage to kill one of these things. So she'll shoot at whatever the hyena is in the front. Take a fire at it. That'll definitely hit. D10. Yeah. So she smokes one of the hyenas in the front, and we have that nasty smell of like burning flesh and fur. It's really gross. On top of the already sort of putrid fountain smell, so everything smells bad, everything's loud, there's a bunch of shadows, people are fighting in the dark. It's a real mess, and this is a tiny room, and they're not even in the room, they're like all bunched up at the front of the entranceway into the room. So it's a lot of back and forth, slinging and hitting and slinging and hitting. And, you know, Noel's trying to shoot over people's heads, so there's arrows sort of like whizzing by people's ears and stuff. Alright, that's her. Ott's gonna make 2 attacks. Again, we're just trying to thin out the numbers, so they're going to shoot at the ones in the front. Those hyena in the front, that's what we're going to do. First one. Yeah, that's definitely going to miss. But she'll hit with one of them. And hopefully should kill it. Yep. And so she kills one, but misses one. Delg will attempt to sling at one of them. No, that's gonna be like a 9. It's not gonna hit. And that brings us back to Imbar. Imbar, I think Imbar did such a good job with dodge. I think she's just gonna use the dodge action again. She'll get another opportunity attack because now she has her reaction back now that she took a turn. That is gonna be Knowles. They're gonna shoot at Imbar, who's in the front. It's really their only target because everybody else has so much cover. That's gonna be 18, so she is gonna get hit with 1 arrow. So 4 plus, so she'll take 5 points of damage. Not too bad. So second roll. Nope, another natural one. Another natural one. Yeah, they are firing just wildly. I think because they're looking at people who are in the tunnel and they have no idea how many people are in that tunnel. Because they can really only see the one person in the front, which is Imbar, just sort of hiding behind the shield in the tunnel. And they see that there are spells and there are arrows coming through back in there and sling stones. They really have no idea. They know there are at least 4 people in the tunnel, but there's so much echoing that there could be 15 people in that tunnel and they have no idea. Not enough to be shaken like morale yet. But it is worrisome for them, and that's how we're explaining all the natural ones on the disadvantage. So that's their go. Then it's going to be the hyena themselves. How many of those guys do we have left? We have 3 of those. Alright, oh, thank goodness we didn't have that natural 20, but that's definitely going to be a miss. Or that natural 20. That will also be a miss. The hyena probably have a +3 to hit. So she will get, no, they only have a +2 to hit, which I don't think actually hits her, right? Yeah, that's 17. That's just 1 shy. So she actually doesn't get bit again. But she will be able to use her opportunity attack again against one of them. A 10. I don't think a 10 hits them. No. Their AC is 11. So she takes a wild swing, but she's more concerned with kind of staying behind that shield because she's already taken 1 arrow to the shoulder. She doesn't want to take any more arrows Because right now the gnolls are just free shooting. It's open hunting season on people in the tunnel. And she's just doing her best to sort of hide behind them. Alright, that is them. It's back up to the top. That's Leah. Leah's going to fire another firebolt. And does she have enough bonus? Does she have +4 at least? She does. Okay, so she's going to hit one with that firebolt. And kill that one. Hyena in the front. Nice. Oct. I was going to take 2 more shots at the hyena. Definitely hits. Definitely hits. Kills one, and one is supremely injured. So there's one hyena that's left in here, and it has 1 hit point. Delg, it's your time to shine. I need you to hit this hyena and take it out. Kill steal this hyena. Alright, here we go, Delg. You only gotta roll a 9. 9 or better. No. How about no? And another sling stone bounces off the ceiling of the tunnel and kind of skips into the room. Well, there's that. I think at this point, that brings us to Inbar. Inbar could kill this thing, but then the gnolls won't any longer have disadvantage on attacking into the tunnel. So I think she is going to take the dodge action again. She's just going to do what she can do. Now at this point, that hyena's gonna run, probably. And if it runs, she will still get the opportunity attack. But it is the gnoll's turn first. They're going to fire into the tunnel at her. Miss. Absolute miss with that natural 1. And a 3. No way. Yeah, sorry. So yeah, more arrows just kind of fly and sputter across the tunnel. Most of the, like, her shield at this point looks like a porcupine. It's got so many arrows sticking out of it. Because I think she's probably got close to it. What? Probably 10 arrows sticking out of it at this point. So it's doing its job. That shield is working overtime. Doing great. Good choice on the dodge action. Dodge action at the right time in 5e is very OP. Very overpowered in the right context. You could soak a lot of hits and turn a lot of damage into a lot of nothing. As we've just seen, in a few rounds, she's probably kicked off, I don't know how many attacks, crits even. And now it's the hyena's turn, and the hyena needs to make a morale check. That is definitely above. We're trying to roll their charisma or under. There's no way they have a charisma of 16. So this hyena is gonna bounce, and as it turns and tries to run away, because scramble over its dead hyena friends that are all scorched and burned and filled with arrows. It's going to try to run away, and Inbar is going to move her shield aside and try to bash it with the warhammer. I believe that will hit. I believe that'll do it. Yeah, 13. Don't really need to roll damage. It is... the thing's got 1 hit point. It's dead, Jim. It's dead. Alright. So, that was gnolls. We're back up at the top, which is why I wanted to hold that dodge action, because now everybody gets to flow into the room to take on the gnolls before they get a chance to act. So they're going to have to... they're all still bowed out, right? So they don't have any melee weapons out. So people are going to flood into the room. Leah is going to... I think Leah's just going to use her firebolt. She definitely doesn't need to get up on them. So she's going to pick one and firebolt it. Not frostbite, because frostbite I think will only slow them, and she's not really worried about them running or doing anything like that. So yeah, she'll just take a firebolt and take a little attack here, and we will hop back over there. That's a D12. Probably not going to hit with that. 17 on the die assuredly hits. So she definitely hits the first one for 7 points of fire damage. Lets out a little yelp as it sort of fire races across its fur and probably lights it up a little bit. It's Leah. Ott sees that injured one, gonna take a couple shots at it, unless we crit for some reason. Or probably not. What did I say? They have a 15 AC? She has a plus 5. So she's gonna miss with one, unfortunately, but she is gonna hit with one of them. That would technically reduce their speed. She's better with longbow. Trying to figure out what she's going to do. She is going to shoot. I mean, she's definitely didn't kill this thing. So it takes 6 points of damage. Yeah, that's what she's going to do. She's actually going to rush into the room up to that injured gnoll. I guess the injured gnoll? Yeah, the injured gnoll. And she will use her bonus action to help. So she's going to try to be a distraction that should help Imbar when she gets in there to hit it. Well, I guess probably Delg, actually, because Delg's the next person to go, so he'll sling, so he'll get advantage on a shot. And now Delg wakes up and decides to crit that one. And does 6 points of damage to it. It doesn't kill it, but hurts it quite badly. So Ott takes a couple shots with her longbow and then kind of slings it across her back and like runs in and goes kind of like roars up in this thing's face. And of course she's a female gnoll. And I was assuming that these were male gnolls, so female gnolls are bigger, so she's quite larger than this thing. She's probably a head higher than this thing, is like roaring on top of it, like salivating, jaws snapping at it. And as she does that, Del sort of like slings under her big arms, kind of over it, and just run off this thing's head, and it sings stars. It's almost dead. And that's sort of the advantage that he gets, and then Imbar's going to rush in. I mean, he's going to go against that one. I mean, that one would probably bug out in this next turn, but... so she won't get advantage, but she does do a whole bunch of extra damage, not that she needs it to kill this thing if she actually hits. Unfortunately, she's not going to hit, though. So she misses, but she moves up into the fray, so there's 2 of them on that injured one. And then it's the gnoll's turn. So does this one run? Let's make him a morale check. No, he stays in the fight. So low is good for them. Bad for us, good for them. So this one is committed to the fight. What about the other 2? Committed to the fight. One of them's going to boogie. One of them turns tail. One of the ones that hasn't been injured yet, but has seen, like, their numbers have been way over half. They've lost all their sort of guard dogs. And they see this one of their compatriots just get absolutely demolished in quick succession. Just taking fire and arrows and then a sling stone across the head, and this thing looks like it's kind of down on one knee, like it's about to die, trying to raise up its weapon to fight back. And he's like, "Nope, I'm out of here." Turns tail and takes off, which is good and bad for us. So I'm gonna remember that, and then when we roll for next time we roll for Wandering Monsters, I'll roll twice and take whatever the worst result of that would be. Because now we have somebody who might be raising an alarm out there. But we have 2 in the fight. One's going to drop their bow because they're in combat and pull out their spear and try to, I guess, jab at Ott. Miss. The other one's still got its bow out. It's going to take a shot. Alright, let's say... We've got 4 people. We'll just go down the line because we can kind of see everybody now. Alright, so that's Leah, Ott, Delg. I'm going to shoot at Delg. Delg technically has cover. And I don't think that will hit Delg. Oh, no, it may still. They have a plus 3. So that's 9, 10, 11, 12. But he has cover, so minus 2. 11, 10. Just missed it by 1. His AC's 11. So an arrow, and then Del kind of ducks out of the way as it kind of scatters around down the tunnel. Lee kind of also dodges out of the way. Oh, so that went well. That could have gone way worse. So these gnolls have not been particularly difficult adversaries. We're back at the top. Leah, that's Leah, so she'll do another firebolt at the one that's injured. That's for sure going to hit him. Hopefully gets 3 or more damage. Does. That guy is kaput. Ott slings her bow. Already slung her bow around. This time she'll, as an interaction, she'll pull out her own spear as she rushes at the one remaining gnoll. So she's instead just going to give it a couple of attacks, a couple pokes with the spear, both of which will hit. So good job, Ott. And so that's 2d8. All right, so 11 points of damage. She comes in and just jams her own spear into this guy. It's yelping out. That's Ott. Delg will do his sling thing. Will he ride that crit high? He will. He's in it now that his life's on the line. For a whopping 1 point of damage. He's doing his part. Are you doing your part? Because Delg's doing his part. So another sling kind of probably skips off the ground and probably like hits it in the knee or something. It's like, ow! That brings us down to Inbar. Inbar's gonna rush in. She's got a big hammer. Let's see if she can take care of this thing. 9, but I believe she has +6, which is gonna hit the 15 we need. It does. Which is she's about to do a lot of damage on this thing. Yeah, that's 12 points of damage. And that's more than enough to kill this gnoll. So, Snoll gets stabbed by Ott. Ow, ow! Twice. And then Delg's slingstone skips in and bounces off his knee and is like, ah, crap. And then as it's sort of like bent over, Inbar runs in with her warhammer and just rotten watermelon smashes this dude's head all over the place. Probably right between like his head and the fountain, just like smashes it into it. And it's just a bloody mess. It's like everybody just kind of they look around. That one guy has run off. Can they still see that one guy? Let's ask. Yeah, so they can still see that one guy. Do they want to chase down after him? Here's what's going to happen. Ott's going to take a couple of shots, because the nice thing about her is that if she hits them with her bow, their speed is reduced by 10. So if she hits it twice, its speed is reduced by 20, which means they can certainly catch up to it. So if she lands 2 hits on this one that's fleeing, and she has the range because she has the longbow, so she's going to pull the longbow back out and take a couple shots. If she can hit with both of them, I'm going to say that they're going to be able to catch up on this one. Otherwise, this one's in the wind. It's gone. And we have to worry about them raising some sort of alarm. So come on. Alright, Ott. We'll do these one at a time. All you gotta do is beat a 15. Which means that we need to roll a 10. Nope. So we miss. She takes a couple pot shots down the hallway, but they disappear in the darkness, and she's not able to see them anymore. Beyond the vision of her, like, dark vision 60. So technically she has the range, but she can't see them anymore. Let me do a resupply on her. It's kind of moot, because I think there's so many arrows around here, I think she would be able to resupply if she ended up rolling a 1, which she did. So rather than her arrows go from D6 down to a D4 for her supply, let's see, are there enough to sort of resupply here? Let's just ask the Oracle. I think so, +3. Yeah, there's plenty. Alright, so we don't need to worry about that. The only person who took damage, I guess I took a little bit. No, that's her falling damage. So the only person who took any damage was Inbar, and she only took 5 points of damage. So everybody seems pretty okay, considering the size of the scale of that fight. Hiding in that tunnel and just holding up the shield did a great amount of work. So Inbar's kind of like pulling arrows out of her shield as they kind of look around in here. So that was a big fight, right? We had a bunch of creatures, which is what happens when we end up rolling 2 creatures in a chamber. Is that it's either a very tough creature or there's quite a bit of creatures, meaning that there's easily like a 2-to-1 sort of ratio, which is, we definitely had a 2-to-1 ratio of antagonist to protagonist, I guess. Let's see, what are we looking at for exits? Alright, so there's an exit to the right, and then there's an exit up, so we can always climb through that hole to get back to street level. Any other exits? No. Basically, I roll 2d6. If I ever roll doubles, then I know there's not any more sort of outlets for the room. The way that works is one, kind of whatever way you come into the room, 1 is on the left, 2 is in front of you, 3 is to the right, 4 would be back, but there's always going to be something behind you because that's the way you got into the room. 5 is down, 6 is up. So we can go up, or we could go to the right. So one passage is going to keep us underground, another one's going to take us above surface. So we assume that one ran off to room 4. I don't think we're going to take the time. This place looks pretty gross, and it smells pretty gross. And there's a bunch of dead bodies here. Do we want to take the time to loot these bodies? Maybe. Actually, it might be worthwhile because we have come across gnolls that have actually quite a bit of wealth on them because they have these sort of foreign currency platinum pieces. So we are going to take the time to loot them. Loot them and look for secrets in the room. So let's do a little investigation check. We're going to give her advantage. We roll terribly, so if there are any secrets in here, we certainly don't find them. So instead, we're just going to look for exits. So to the left. Nope. That would have been a secret, but we didn't do a good enough investigation. In front of us. Nope. Behind us. Nope. That's below us. No. So there's no sort of other exits that lead out of the facility, basically out of the dungeon exits. So we're definitely not on the edge of the Oasis anymore. We're moving closer towards our target, whatever that target is. So we do that, and now we're left with sort of a choice. And now we are going to roll that. We spend some time here looking around, and then we'll do the treasure. But as we're looking for treasure, does anything show up? So we're going to roll twice because we had that one in the wind. Unfortunately, we rolled a 1, which means there is going to be some sort of random encounter. As we're looking over picking over the dead bodies, there are some creatures that are going to show up. There's some sort of wandering monster encounter that's going to show up. We will figure out what that is, but first, let's go ahead and do our treasure rolls. So we've got a whole bunch of bad guys, and I guess technically we only have 2 bad guys. I'm not going to roll for the hyenas. They're not going to have anything of worth on them. So let's just roll for our guys, and let me grab my little minor treasure table, and let's see what sort of things these guys have on them. Alright, so the first one is some sort of pocket contents. Perfect. This is all in my DM's binder, so if you want to look at these tables, I have a video about that. Just go check out the sort of walkthrough of my DM's binder. So 2d6. Gotta figure out what's in here. 6 and 2. Some sort of contract. And then what's our second one? I'll figure out what the contract is in just a second. And then that's also pocket contents. So we've got a contract of some sort. And it looks like it's just some rice, some uncooked rice, like ration kind of stuff. We're not down on rations, so it's not worth really any money. We could use it to supplement some rations, but our rations are actually filled up at this point because remember we did that trade with the hermit, so we're stocked up on everything that we would need with our torches, our feed, rations. Yeah, I think at this point Delg has probably lit a torch, so let's check on the torch. Okay, so we don't need to worry about that. Imbar's the person who needs the torch. We'll have to figure out whether she stays in the back with the torch or maybe somebody behind her. Maybe, probably not Ott, probably Leah, because Leah has kind of a hand free, or Delg can hold the torch. But they are behind her, so she's not going to have the greatest view, but that does allow her to have her weapon and her shield out, and then light kind of coming behind her to frame everything. It also gives Ott still the ability to sort of move away from the light and still kind of sneak around and see things. So I did, not too long ago, Chalcedon over at the Arcane Library released the solo prompts for game. There's a solo aspect of it. It's an OSR 5e kind of in between, kind of bridge. but I wanted to use, it has little prompts in here. So let's get a prompt for our contract. Let's D100 table that I wanted to try out. So 46. So withhold life. Yeah, let's say it's basically just their guard contract. It's like they were hired specifically to kind of guard this area, probably. So there's like it's a surprisingly formal contract. Let's just ask an oracle question. Do these gnolls, do they seem to have the ability to read and write? I don't think so. They're pretty, as far as D&D frames them, they're a pretty crude sort of species. So I don't think so. I think it's extremely unlikely. So -5. No. So, I mean, they just kind of have, like, X's, like, they've made their mark or whatever. But it is a surprisingly formal contract. Can we read it? I mean, I guess we can maybe make out enough of it, but is it something that, between Leah and everybody else here, can we discern what this is? Not really. I think it probably uses some very sort of, like, the way that we do in the modern time with any sort of like legal or medical things where we use a lot of sort of Greek or Latin or something like that. And Leah, being a historian, understands some of it. Like, she can pick out specific words that align with that, but the language itself she can't read. So she doesn't do that. But can we tell what the amount is? Maybe? How much they're supposed to get paid? Or what the term is or anything like that? No. Alright, so there's no, like, numerals. So anything that's, like, regarded to number as in payment or duration of the contract or anything like that is written out in word form, and we can't read that. Unfortunately, that contract is relatively worthless to us, so we haven't found it. We didn't find anything of use on them. So, but as we're doing that, as we're kind of, everybody's sitting around this contract trying to figure it out, we have the torch above it, and we're looking on it. Let's give ourselves a perception check. We're going to use the room DC, which is 17. We'll use Odd because she has the best. And everybody's kind of listening, so we'll give her advantage. So she needs to roll a 14 or better. Natural 20. Nice. So we do hear whoever is sneaking up on us. In such a good success, I'm going to say that we hear them before we see them, before they're even here. So we hear somebody moving down the passageway. Are they moving above us? They could be moving above us, or are they coming from that passage? Because that'll probably determine which way we go. Are they coming from above us? I have 50-50. I don't know. Yes, okay. So we hear the sound from above us, which we know is sort of street level. So I think we decide, I think we can actually, because we rolled that sweet natural 20 on that perception check, we can actually get around this fight. And I think everybody decides to rush down into that dark hallway, and that dark passageway that's following where the gnoll ran off. So we're gonna go do that, and I think we take a piece of cloth or blanket or bedroll or whatever, and we just wrap up the torch and douse it so there's no light to see us, and we just hustle off down that passage. And we'll see what we see when we go down there. And so we're going to actually be able to avoid this, whatever this was. Because we don't know this wandering monster, if they're related to the gnoll that ran off or not, or it could be some sort of surface patrol that's just going by. And they might come check in, see everybody's dead, and that could be a problem for us later, but it's not a problem for us right now. I mean, at some point people are going to find these bodies, and there's no place for us to hide these bodies, and there's a lot of them. And people are going to know it's weird if they were just not here and we cleaned it up perfectly anyways. And the people who have been hired with a contract that we know of to guard this space aren't here. So we're gonna hustle down that passage, and we are going to leave this place. We're going to avoid this wandering monster encounter. Right, could be good. We don't necessarily know that the creature was bad, but we do know that we're not going to interact with it. Usually it's bad, though. if we have a wandering monster encounter, it's most likely bad. So we're going to hustle down that corridor. Actually, before we do that, let's just roll. Okay, so we don't come across anything in the passage, so... And then we're moving on. We haven't come across anything in sort of the in-between scenes. That's sort of what we were rolling for, to see if we run across any sort of traps or obstacles in the passages, any sort of wandering monsters, things of that nature. We can come across any of those. So we have essentially been in the clear, which is nice. We're moving through these underground passages. We are coming across what is, at this point, going to be room 4, because room 3 would have been above. Area is probably a better word. Area 3 is sort of surface level. So we're still in the underground passages. So we fill this out. We're going to have 3, and that's going to be a bunch of question marks because we haven't gone down that way. So we can always go back and check that out later to see where that goes to. But this 4th one's going to be underground still. So what is the size of this room? 3. Wow, another small room. I mean, it makes sense. There's 50% chance that it's going to be small. So 1 through 3 is small. 4 and 5 is medium. And then 6 is large. And so, like we said, small is around, you can get to basically anything within the room within about 30 feet. So it's kind of abstracted, but roughly a 30 foot by 30 foot room. And then medium is about a 60 foot by 60 foot room. And then a large room is about 120 feet by 120 feet, which is a very large room for D&D. And you'll only be able to hit something that's on the other side right off the bat without doing any movement with things like longbows, or firebolt will reach 120. So, but anything that's like a 30 foot spell or 60 foot spell, you're going to have to move into the room. You're going to have to do some moving in the room before you can hit potentially stuff in the room. Just kind of abstracting it out because we're not playing like on a virtual tabletop kind of grid style. We're kind of doing a theater of mind just to kind of keep it loose, kind of keep it fast. Especially since it's hard to prepare something like a VTT when I don't know what the room's going to look like before we make it. So I can't really prep that beforehand. So we've got a small room. What's going to be our theme? I think this is going to be the last null theme if we end up rolling a null theme. No. Okay, so we've maybe transitioned here out of where the gnolls have sort of camped up. Because remember, while we have goblins, gnolls, and orcs together, as well as the foreign faction, I don't think that they're integrated. I don't think this is like one big cohesive army. It's like camps that are kind of next to each other. So we've kind of moved out. It seems like we've maybe moved out of the gnoll area, and now we're sort of into the goblin area. So that should tell us that we're moving further in. And then again, what is this room gonna kind of be? Again, everything's kind of this ruined Oasis City. What? Wow, 2 natural 20s. We'll see how, what is actually that gonna mean. So a 20 is some sort of workshop. I almost want to make it like, how do we want to interpret a double 20? We could roll again and make it something else. But we know they were doing some sort of arcane research here. This is an old sort of like arcane research facility as well. Looking at the water. Now the water in the last time we found has been totally fouled. But this is going to be some sort of water workshop. We don't think it's water powered. We think it's about research about the water itself and maybe the effects of it. So it might be sort of like an elemental kind of thing. But what would that workshop be? So it might just be like just sort of like a massive alchemical workshop. Do we want to make it larger than it is or just more dense? So I think we can interpret a double 20 as either the stuff in here is going to be quite valuable. We're going to find something very valuable in here, or it's very important, or it's going to change something somehow, or we can make it bigger. We've had, since this is the workshop, I think I'm just going to make it bigger. So I think I'm going to rewrite that sort of small. It's no longer going to be a small chamber. It's going to be a medium chamber. So this is where they were doing like all their sort of experiments with the water and trying to figure out the properties of it and things like that. So there's big sort of like alchemical chemistry. So there's like alembics and all sorts of stuff there kind of around, test tubes, flasks, that sort of thing. And I think it's massive. I think there's probably big tanks. There's probably all sorts of stuff. So I also want to know, like, what is the condition of this place? So I'm going to roll twice and kind of on my conditions and then, sorry. I'm going to redo that because it's a D6 roll. So I was thinking 2D6. Oh. Okay, so it's uneven. So parts of this have been absolutely obliterated. And other parts of it are perfectly functional. And so there's like different spots. Maybe like, maybe let's wait for maybe the dressing to see if the dressing gives us any information. But it seems like it's been like partially destroyed. We'll do that. But other parts of it seem to be in maybe like perfect working order. And what is our DC for this room? Let's figure that out. Alright, so we roll these 2d6. Alright, so 5. That means that it's a base of 10. Then we roll another d6 to add to it. So it's DC 12. Let's find out our dressing. Our delicious salad dressing for our dungeon. Alright, so for this scene, we have this big alchemical laboratory. Let's look at... So we got 6 and 9. So there could be some sort of vermin in here. And we have a clue that telegraphs danger. Ooh, we did not go back and tell... I guess the clue that telegraphs danger for that first room was that we shouldn't climb up that pillar, right? That this whole thing might collapse if we stay around in the gymnasium. Do we want another... I want to do something that's not clue telegraphs danger. I try not to duplicate them until I start running out of stuff. 16. So it was 16. Okay, so it's got an odd room shape or orientation. I think this is like a stepped. So instead of like... Of course, most rooms are usually flat. So I think instead of having it be like flat, it's like at a slope. Like there's benches. It's almost sort of like amphitheater style. Like there's a layer where there's a whole bunch of stuff, and then another layer down that's a few steps down, another more stuff and more stuff and more stuff. And I think that there's maybe like a channel or something of water that kind of flows through it, so that way they can have the water that flows through it, and so it's always moving, so it doesn't ever stagnate. All right, so it's sloped, or that's why it's all screwed up. Maybe it's supposed to be flat, and maybe part of the room has collapsed. Let's go with that. And vermin. So I mean, sort of a trivial monster. Like there's gonna be some sort of like rat swarms or insect swarms or something else that's gonna be in here. We'll figure out what that is in a minute. So we'll have to deal with it if there's not any, especially if there's not any threatening creatures in here. And so let's find out exactly what's gonna be in here. 2d6 for our room table. Okay. Well, that's not great. So 4 is another hot. So that's a hazard, obstacle, trick, or trap. Now, part of this place is perfectly pristine. So I get the idea that maybe there's going to be a trap in here, and maybe there's also going to be an area that's hazardous to us. So instead of doing like one massive, really dangerous one, we're going to have 2 separate ones. And then we're going to have the vermin that are also going to be a problem. I think if let's lean into maybe that sort of Oasis City thing, where it's going to be sort of like an insect scarab swarm. So we'll do like insect swarms. I think that works out really well. Like, of course, right, we have this water in here, and maybe the water is a little bit slower now because part of it's been destroyed, so now there's become like a breeding ground. Might be anything from sort of like really nasty mosquitoes to scarabs to things. Anyways, it's become a nice breeding ground for all sorts of disgusting, buggy kind of things that are just going to be swarming through all the wreckage at us. And we've got some hazards, and we've got a trap. So let's go down here. We actually have some things that I pulled from my DM binder. So we can do a sort of a random hazard or obstacle. So 7 and 1. 7. So some sort of permanent spell effect in the room, and a wide chasm. Okay, so I like both of those. Are these related? Let's just ask the Oracle. Are these related? No. Okay, so they're not related. They're 2 kind of separate entities. So it's not like the spell effect caused the chasm. There's just a massive rip into it, and maybe that's where the water is kind of falling down into the darkness below that part of this room's collapsed into. So we've got this giant chasm that we're going to have to get across, so that's going to be some sort of athletics check or some other smart way that we got to figure out how to get across there. And there's some sort of permanent spell effect. Let's find out. So I have sort of on my trap side, let's give a trap or trick type, and maybe that'll kind of help us figure out what exactly that spell effect is. We'll roll twice. 4 and 8. Alright, so straight up murder trap just does damage. And then 8 is an animator. Okay. I'm trying to think. I'm thinking that like the animator could be like, rather than actually animate gear, like an animated object kind of creature, because it's not really supposed to be a fight in this room. Though we're gonna kind of have one with the vermin in there probably. I think that maybe this is. You know what? I'm gonna put the 2 together. I know we didn't roll them together, but we're gonna put them together. There's this wild magic that's going on. And the thing is that sort of, we have this ripped chasm in the room that we're going to have to cross to get across. If we want to fully investigate the room and maybe get to one of the exits in the room to go somewhere else. So we're going to have to cross it. But I think that there's like some sort of wildly undulating magical force that's in there, and I think if we're lucky we'll see it, but we may not see it. But I'm thinking the idea is that it's got a weird reverse gravity on it. We'll probably see it because we see the water dipping down in the chasm, because I'm thinking that the chasm's going to reverse gravity at some point, so we're going to see like water and debris and stuff that typically runs down that slope into the collapsing room. It falls into the chasm, down to the chasm, and then at random moments it flips and then splatters across the ceiling. Like all that debris goes up to the ceiling and then falls back down. And we're going to have to get across that. Now, the thing that's why it's dangerous is that if we hit it with the upswell when we're trying to go across it, it's going to slam us into the ceiling. We're going to lose our momentum of movement, and then it's going to drop us into the chasm, which is not going to be good. So we've got to figure out a way to get around that. And then we also have this vermin that's going to be attacking us, and they're also going to be subjected to sort of the up and downs, though probably not going to hurt them because they're little creatures. So yeah, so we've got this weird sort of vibe that we've got to get across this sort of undulating wild magic that's flinging things up and bringing them down. So that's sort of the murder part and the animator part. Because I was originally thinking like a magic, like a magnetic thing that would pull our gear, but I think I'm just gonna do gravity. I think that's way easier. Sorry, not anti-gravity, but reverse gravity swells. So that could be really, really dangerous for us. Now, luckily, this room's DC is relatively low, so hopefully there's not gonna be a problem, and we can mitigate some of that risk. And then we need to figure out what the trap is. So we can use that same trap. Usually we do like a D4 and then a D12. We'll roll 2. I like to roll twice and then pick whichever one feels the best. And then D12. Okay, let's reroll that. Alright, so 1, 2, and 2, 7. Okay, so it could be an anti-magic dispel. Could be some sort of attainment. And what is we have a sensor or a pressure touch. I like pressure touch, but I think we already have enough kind of sensorial stuff kind of going on. So I like pressure plate. So there's maybe some sort of pressure. So we're going to make this a little bit more difficult on ourselves, because why not? We're going to stack the opposition against us. So we know that we can jump across, but there's going to be some sort of pressure plate on the other side that's potentially going to shut off. We're going to drop like bars down over the doors. Is going to trap us in here if we set that off. So it's going to lock us into this room, right? It's going to detain us in this room. So now that's something extra that maybe we need to avoid. We also have to see if we see it. Now, we've walked into this room, or we're getting into this room. Now we need to make a perception check. How much of the stuff do we actually see? Because we might not see any of it. Now, we're given an odd advantage because she has multiple people with her. Yeah, we nuked that DC. And I don't think it would be any harder than that. Not that it would matter anyways. That would only push it up to a 15. So we walk in there. We're kind of looking around. We're like, this place is super weird. But we did roll 2 4s, which means that there's also treasure in this room. There should be actually... We got treasure times 2. Which means that there's at least some sort of magical item in here, if we can find it. But with that DC being so low, there's a good likelihood we will. Alright, so we kind of walk in here. We got assaulted by some vermin. And I'm going to wait till, just to make it a little bit more dramatic, as soon as we get probably 50% of the people over there, or we trigger the trap, or something like that, whenever it seems the most inconvenient, that's when the vermin swarm is going to appear and make itself a problem. Just to make it extra hard on ourselves, because why not? Right? This is supposed to be challenging. We rolled things that are supposed to be hard for us. There's a reason why there's no monsters in here. This is a crappy brew. But we've got a number of things, so we're going to... So the question is so I want to ask this oracle question, because we did a pretty good perception check, so we should be able to see most things in this room. So do we see whatever the magic item is on the other side? Does it catch specifically Leah's attention, being the most magically inclined of the group? Do we see a shiny bauble that we desperately need to get to across the room? I think it's extremely likely. We really need a hard reason to go across that chasm. So +5. No, okay, so it's hidden somewhere. It might be under the rubble. Does Leah have detect magic? Because I feel like this is the time where she might do something like detect magic. She does detect magic. We do know that this is parts of this place is pristine, so she has a good idea that there's probably something magical here. So she's going to take the time to cast detect magic as a ritual, because she doesn't want to just cast the spell for something like that, for a utility spell, if she can cast it as a ritual. But that does take time. Which means if we're just sitting around not doing anything, that means there's a chance of more wandering monsters are going to show up. Now, we know that we almost got caught by them once. Could get caught again. Not this time, though. Now, okay, question. This is an Oracle question. Are they still on our tail? I think that's 50-50, because if so, I'm going to roll again. No. Okay. So, those footsteps we had apparently haven't raised any sort of alarm. We haven't heard anything. And the sort of meta narrative of what's going on within the dungeon, it doesn't seem like anybody's actively looking for the group at this point, which is great, which is very good. Which means that it was just a surface level, street level patrol that was just going by, didn't check in on the gnolls, didn't do any of that. Great. So we ran away from what we thought was a threat, ended up not being a threat. It's just a passive thing that happened. Random dungeon patrol. Alright, so I think we search around on this side. We're going to search through the rubble. She's going to do the detect magic. She's going to do the detect magic, and she'll be able to pick up... I think there's going to be quite a bit of magical stuff, like latent magic stuff, but I think most of it's going to be really old. So I think that we're still going to be able to have that magic item that kind of sticks out like a little beacon, like a little lighthouse of magical energy. Now the question is that, knowing that, can we see it on the other side? I think it's extremely likely again. The answer is yes. Alright, so we know it, and Leah's like, there's definitely something of note on the other side. Of course, with detect magic, she'd be able to tell what kind of magic is, but I don't know what the item is, so I don't know what to tell her. It's enough that it grabs her interest, though. She wants to know more about it, and thinks maybe it'll be helpful for us, so let's go see if we can get it. They kind of walk to the edge and look down at the chasm, and they're like, that's pretty deep. And I think, like, as they're sort of bending over, kind of look at the chasm, they feel this rush of air come back up, and then... and like Leah's hair is probably like little strands of it are falling down across her face, and then those strands go, and like she feels like her body kind of being pulled up towards the ceiling, just because she's a little bit over the edge. It's like, oh no. Oh no, that's bad. And then see all this sort of debris and water starts to fly up against the ceiling, and I'm sure there's lots of like water damage, watermarks across it. And then, after a while, the reverse gravity stops, and all that water spills back down into the chasm, splashing all over the place. Debris kind of peppers them along the edge, falls back down into it. Okay, well that makes things a little bit more difficult. So I am going to say that this is going to be a more difficult crossing. So we're going to take that DC 12, we're going to add 3 to it, because we think this is going to be a harder challenge to get across. At this point, we've seen it. Do we see the pressure plates? This will be an investigation. Again, it's going to be hard because they're not anywhere close to it. I'll let Leah do it because she's the one that's kind of here. She does have advantage though, and she does have a pretty good investigation. She has a +5 to the roll. Okay, so we got it on the die. She goes, wait. What is that? And she kind of points over there, because we can see that like the floor is different there, right? Most of it's been sort of this stepped stone and collapsed, and then on the other side we have, I'm thinking like brass floor plates, or grate or something like that looks like it's movable. We might even see it, actually probably that's how she sees it, is that as the gravity reverses, they could see it like a little bit. because it's like a click plate, right? So we see it actually go up a little bit. Like, wait, alright, so we have to not land on that. So how do we get across? I think they spend a little time to make sure that the timing, like it's not a cyclical regular timing of of this sort of reverse gravity effect that's happening, and they kind of clock it for a little bit, and they're like, nope, it seems absolutely random as to whether it's going to, if we try to jump over this thing, whether it's going to throw us up into the ceiling and then fall down to the chasm. Is it going to throw us up to the ceiling and then last for half a minute so we can pick ourselves up and keep running across and then fall at least on the other side of the chasm? Or, you know, are we going to try to jump and there's not going to be any reverse gravity? Like, it seems absolutely random to them. So, but we are spending some more time, so let's see if the wandering monster shows up. No. Okay, good. Alright, so we're going to fashion some way. How are we going to get across this thing? This is a question for myself. We have some basic information. We have some basic stuff. We don't really have any good utility spells that would work really for this. So here's a question. This is just an oracle question. Is this something that we could just jump? Like, without having to do a lot of affair, is it literally something we could just jump? Like, is it too wide? So let's ask the oracle. I think it's unlikely, so -3. I don't think we can just jump it. Yeah, no, we can't. It is way too... In fact, that's a natural one. It's way too far. So far that we're going to have to use probably, like, 2 ropes to get across it. Like, it's a little bit... Once we tie knots and stuff, it's longer than the 50 foot of rope would use. So we're going to have to use 2 ropes together. Which means if somebody ends up falling, they're going to fall quite a bit, even if they don't hit the bottom of the chasm. So they can really hurt themselves. But we also have to figure out a way to get to the other side, which we don't really have a good way to do. Other than... We could try to lower somebody all the way down to the bottom. But if we lower somebody... Can we see the bottom? Let's ask that. Can we see the bottom? Yes. Okay. How deep is the bottom? How do we ask that? Is it more than 50 feet? Let's start off with that. No. Okay, so it's not 50 feet. So let's roll like a d6 and that times 10, I guess. Alright, so it's about 40 feet down. So we can make it. It's far across, but we can push somebody. Somebody can make it down to the bottom and run across, but they're going to have to climb back up. Well, we know the person for that job. And that person is Odd. Odd is making her money today. She's doing a lot. She's the person who has the best athletics. She has a decent strength score, just as good as Imbars, but she's trained in athletic. Actually, they both are. So either one of them would actually be quite good at this. Ott's more likely to be able to pull herself up on the other side and be dexterous enough to get around the trap, the pressure plate trap, because it's like right on the edge. So she's slightly got a better dex save. So we'll send Ott. So we're going to lower her down. We're going to wait. We're going to wait for one of the... We're going to get her tied up. We're going to tie 2 ropes together so she can get down and across. Do we have anything for her to secure things to when she gets over there? Like, any sort of spikes or something that she can hammer in? No. So, we'll be able to investigate that, but she has to get across the chasm first. So they wait for the reverse gravity to shift, all the stuff comes raining down, and then we, you know, on belay on, repel on. And so everybody sits back and kind of feeds her line. They're all, you know, everybody's all in line behind, holding the rope and feeding her down as she tries to repel, hopping down. I guess, I don't really... There's not a chance that she's really probably going to screw herself up rappelling down. So I guess we just need to know... Does she make it to the bottom before the reverse gravity hits? Again, we said this is random, so it's got to be a 50-50 shot. Um, if we roll 11 or better, the answer is yes. Nope. So, here's what happens. So she's rappelling down. Rappelling down. She probably... How far does she make it? So we know it's about 40 feet down. Man, she makes it 30 feet down. And then the reverse gravity starts. And they see the debris start to lift. The water start to not tumble down. Starts to pick up. And, right, Ott's rappelling down. She's bouncing off of it. And then the reverse of that gravity starts to happen. And the line slackens. And then she feels herself falling up. Alright, everybody else is going to have to make basically a straight save, and they're going to try to pull the line back in. They're basically going to turn and run back towards the entrance to the room, because that's the easiest way to pull in line. And so they're just like, hustle, run, 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 run. So let's do an athletics check. We'll let Imbar do it. And she's going to have advantage. She has a bunch of people with her. So she has +4. Again, this is a hard thing, so we're going to shoot for that 15 DC. Because it's a very complicated thing they're trying to do. Okay, we got it. So the reverse gravity starts to pull her up, and they turn around and they sort of like holding on to it, and they just, as the team start running, sort of digging in their heels and running back, trying to pull up line, which is very easy to do because they're going to lose a lot of the weight of Ott, because that weight's going to start going up. And so really what they're trying to do is they're trying to pull her over the edge where the gravity's going to flip. So that way, instead of slamming her into the ceiling, she'll make it out of the reverse gravity and just kind of splat on the ground. Which it seems like we did. We're going to give her... I'm basically going to give her a dexterity saving throw with advantage. I think she just needs to hit the 12 for it. Natural 20. She lands on her freaking feet. So she does this weird sort of like upside down twist around like somebody floating through space. It like lands perfectly on her feet. With the rope tied around her. Perhaps we should do it while it's up instead. How tall is the room? Let's ask that. I can't imagine a d6 or 2d4 times 5 maybe. Alright, so it's 25 feet tall. That's better than falling down. But it's like guaranteed damage if they jump into it rather than maybe falling. Because they might fall too. So they're going to take guaranteed damage falling up. And then if the thing switches, they'll definitely take damage falling down. It's a very complicated hazard. I may have overplayed my hand here on myself. This is going to be really difficult to get across. If that's the case, then I think they're gonna wait and they're gonna try to do it again. So, D12. Does anybody show up while they're doing it? Nope. All right. So same thing's gonna happen. They're gonna repel her down once the reverse gravity goes. She's gonna run down. She's gonna try to get it to the bottom. Does the gravity reverse on them? Yep. Same thing. All right. We've got to make an athletics check. We're gonna make the athletics check. She's gonna make the dexterity saving throw. Another natural 20. She lands on her foot. She's feeling very confident about making that transition now. We wait again. Like, now it's just random. Now we just gotta wait for the dice to work in our favor. Either that, or we have to let her take the damage. And that's a long fall from the bottom to the top. Like, that's enough damage. Probably not to kill her. It probably won't kill Ott. But it's going to really hurt her if she ends up falling that much. Because she can fall up to, what, 60 feet? If she makes it all the way to the bottom? That's 66 of damage. That's a lot of damage. That's enough to basically KO her. So we don't want that. So we're going to wait again. Nope. Nothing happens. Alright, we rappel down. No problems here. Everybody's kind of in the motion now. We all know what to do now. They're getting weirdly practiced at this now. So they're probably hurrying up. I think that because they can hurry up now, I'm going to give them a modifier for the reverse gravity, because now they're hustling. Now they know exactly what to do. They know what happens if it goes wrong. They're moving fast. Alright, so, does she make it to the bottom before the reverse gravity? We need to roll 11 or better. She has a +3, so that's actually going to take it down to an 8 or better. Yes. Yes, absolutely. So we're gonna ride the natural 20 and be like, she's gonna have advantage scrambling back up. And if she can scramble back up, then she's gonna do it before the reverse gravity hits. She did it. So she's pulling herself up the other way. She gets to the edge. Now she's up there. She's got to make that. So she needs to acrobatics jump over sort of like the brass pressure plate. We don't know what it does. They don't know what it does. We know what it does. Can she get across that? I think so. Hopefully. Nope. Well, we got one person across. But she does smack. She does accidentally. She tries to leap across it, but she kind of... Maybe she gets caught by a little bit, like as she's trying to pull herself up and leap over. She gets caught by the reverse gravity starting up again, and it kind of pulls her footing out from behind her, and she unfortunately just kind of like tumbles and rolls across the brass plate instead. And then we see the ding, and those bars come down over the doors, locking us into this chamber. And because bad goes to worse, I said when it seems most inconvenient, the vermin are going to show up, so that those insect swarms start spilling out of the debris that's in the room. Not on the side that most of the characters on, specifically on the side Ought is, because it's most inconvenient for us. And so nobody can get across probably without hurting themselves, and she's going to have to find some place to either secure the line or she's got to take on these vermin by herself. Now this is a minor thing, so it's going to be a trivial, I'm going to say it's going to be a trivial thing, so it's not going to be enough of a swarm to really become like a full-fledged kind of encounter, like I'm absolutely going to kill her kind of thing. So it's not going to be that, but it is going to be an encounter, so we're not going to let it go above sort of what is the trivial level. Am I being nice on myself? We did a lot of hard stuff, but we didn't really have any negative effects from it. So let me see. Let's ask the Oracle. Is this sort of a trivial encounter for one creature, or is this a trivial encounter? Is this a trivial encounter for one creature? 50-50. Yes. Yes. Okay. Good. Woo. All right. So she just needs to deal with the one. Actually, because that's easy, let's make it a swarm of rats. We're gonna say a swarm of rats, but it's really a swarm of insects. It just has a lower CR, so we're gonna use the rats. So let's do a swarm of rats. Initiative. I don't think anybody's going to get across, so it's really just going to be a bang-bang kind of play out. Is she going to go before them? Probably, but let's roll it. Yeah, okay, so I get to go first as she gets swarmed by a bunch of insects come out there trying to attack her. Maybe scorpions, scarab beetles, those sorts of things. Creepy crawlies. Alright, so again, it's just going to be Ought, and then we're going to have bugs. Good old bugs. Now, I don't think the bugs have a lot of hit points. Or they have 24, which seems like a ton. Alright, well, they have 24 hit points. She gets to go first. I think they're surrounding her. I think she's just going to pull out her spear and go to it, rather than try to kite them around. Also because I don't think she has a lot of leeway of movement, because she still has that rope tied around her, and it's all the way across, like linked across there. And I think they're feeding her slack so she can move as much slack as they can give her, while still making sure that like nothing weird happens. She's gonna get in there with her spear, make 2 spear attacks, hit with one of them. Spear does D8 plus 2, so she does 8 points of damage. Bugs are gonna go. Bugs will make an attack, so they sort of swarm over her. They're gonna fail to hit her though. Oh, sorry, they're resistant to BSP, so they take half that damage. That sucks. Oh, and they do 2d6. Dang. Luckily, they didn't hit her. But yeah, it's actually nasty. I need to be using more swarms. These are very terrible. But they did take half damage, so they're down to 20. Technically, other people could get in on this fight. They can't shoot across. Reverse gravity happens. It's going to screw up like all their arrows and stuff for aiming, for like trajectories and stuff like that. So we'll just go down. We'll say it's Ott. We'll let Del go. That the gravity is reversed right now because we said that's how she tumbled across the brass plate and brought the detainment down. So that right now is what it is. Del's going to take a sling, so they're going to do disadvantage. 8, 9, 10. Does 10 hit the swarm? It might actually. Yeah, okay. But it's still going to do half damage to it. Well, half of 1 is 0. Do I want to give him minimum damage? I think we just give him minimum damage. It's not going to make that much of a difference. And I want Delg to feel good about himself. That's very important. We want to build his confidence as somebody who uses a sling. So he'll do 1 point of damage. Leah will take a shot with Firebolt. Still enough to hit. Now, this one they're not resistant to. So 7 points of fire damage as she scorches a whole bunch of them across the ground. So they're down to 12. Is Imbar gonna... What's Imbar's arrows looking like? Her arrows are okay. Yeah, sure. She'll shoot some arrows, I guess. Why not? She'll hit. Sure. And that's D8 plus 2, and then it's halved. So 7, half of 7 is 3. So 3 points of damage. It's not much of a fight. Obviously, it's not meant to be much of a fight. But it is a nuisance, really. So, it's kind of back up to the top. Does Ott have enough play to put herself on the other side of the swarm? Yes. Okay, so follow-up question. If she can put herself on the other side of the swarm, can she in one action just kind of... Because 5e is a little weird, so this is kind of an interesting thing. We'll narrate it, but... Can she just bull rush them off? Can she just push all the vermin into... Because they act as one creature. Can she just swarm push all of them into the chasm? Yeah? Okay. Cool. That's what she'll try to do then. We'll make it like a contested strength roll. And now I roll a 5. Alright, for them. Oh! It's not pretty. But she's able to, like, grab, like, a chunk of debris, or maybe, like, one of the alchemical tails or something, and she, like, flips it over, and she just, like, puts her shoulder into it and, like, pushes them like using a dustpan, pushes the whole thing over into the chasm. Which, is the chasm still going up at this point? Question, probably not. No, it's not. It's going down. So she pushes this table, and this table and all these creepy crawlies tumble into the chasm below and squash and make a loud ruckus as they hit down there. But she is across. Can she find anything to tie this thing off to? I think probably so. We just said there's a heavy table. There's got to be something we can tie that against. So almost absolutely +5. Yeah, 20. Easy. Very easy to find a heavy object to tie it off to. So she can tie that off, and then they can make their way across. People on their side can probably find something to tie it off to, and now they at least have a rope bridge that's kind of across. And so everybody else can scramble across. So we'll give everybody else, I guess, an athletics check to make it. They're going to be smart, though, so everybody's going to, like, undo their belt and, like, put their belt around the rope. So even if they lose their handle on it, they're not going to, like, fly into the ceiling or fly down into the chasm. Like, their heavy, like, leather belts are going to hold them to the line, and they'll just sort of, like, flip over on it upside down and just crawl across. So they'll have advantage. So, but they might take I guess a little bit of damage if they fail, or there's a potential that their belt might snap or something. We'll do that. Alright, so who's going across first? I think Imbar's probably going to go last. We'll say Leah goes first. This is going to be an extremely easy check. So it's going to be a check of 9 instead of 12. Yeah, she easily scoots across. Delg. Delg might not make it. Delg does not make it. So Delg's having some trouble. Here's a question. Does his, like, belt break, or does his belt break? I think that's extremely unlikely. -5. No, that's a 10. Which is technically a no, but he's probably gonna drop something. Maybe something falls out of his backpack. He doesn't have a lot of stuff. So the big question is it his healer kit? Because if it's his healer kit, they have to go down and get it for sure. Because they are definitely going to need that thing. Is it his healer kit? Please say no. No, thank you. Thank goodness. So we're just going to say... it's probably his dagger. It's most likely going to be his dagger that falls out. Because it's probably not secured. Yeah, okay. I'm going to give him a bonus to that. Alright, so he lost his dagger. His dagger fell in there. That's fine. I am perfectly fine with Doug losing his dagger. That is not a concern of mine. Almost every humanoid enemy we'll come across will have some sort of weapon he can replace that with. Or he can probably borrow somebody else's dagger. I think some of these characters have multiple daggers on them. Not that he uses dagger most of the time anyways. Alright, so he drops his dagger, but he scoots across. That leaves Imbar. Imbar's going to... I think Imbar's going to take the rope with her. So... I think she's... How's she going to do that? I think they're going to try to do like a... She's going to do a running jump, and then they're going to yank on it. Yank on the rope as much as they can. To sort of kind of pull her across all the way to the other side. Does that seem feasible? I mean, I don't... Probably not, really. We already said it's a super long jump. But maybe. So -3. Oh, but okay, yeah. Alright, so it was just like just out of reach from the jump. So they think like if she jumps and they jerk her hard enough, she can maybe latch onto the other side and maybe somebody can help pull her up. So athletics check. I do think this is going to be a hard athletics check. She's going to have advantage on it because she has the help. But does need to hit a 15 with her athletics check. Which, her athletics check is only a +4. So it's not great. But she has advantage. She got it. Nice. So she leaps, a very Gimli throw the dwarf situation. She's like, leaps across. And she's like, ah! And they're pulling on the rope as hard as they can. And she kind of like chest slams into the other side. Oh! And they kind of pull her up onto the other side. And now they're in the room. They're on the other side of the room. They've dealt with the storm. They've dealt with the terrible, terrible chasm obstacle I set for myself. We did, however, trip the trap. And so, as far as we know, we are stuck in this room until we figure out a way out. But we do have the magic item. So Imbar is going to go find that magic item. I don't think she technically wouldn't have detect magic up anymore because I think it lasts 10 minutes. But she has a pretty good idea of where it is, and we've already passed enough checks that I feel like she can find it. And kind of pulls some rubble away, and she's able to find it. What is that magic item? And then I think after we do this, we're going to leave to figuring out how to get out of here till next time. And that'll be where we'll pick up in the next session. This room, I made a real bear of a room for myself. I love it and hate it all at the same time. Great job, me. I hate it. Actually, I've got the stuff in here. Alright, so we know that it is a magic item. So this is the table we're going to use. What's its potency? Big numbers? Low numbers. So it's 2. It's going to be a consumable item of some type. Rarity? Ooh, but high rarity. 17. So we're still in tier 1 because we're level 4. So some sort of uncommon single-use item. So that's going to be a potion or a scroll, most likely. So we want uncommon magic items. We want some sort of scroll. Could also be a potion. Could also be a wondrous item. There's some weird wondrous items in there too that are single use. This will very quickly tell us. So there's potion of resistance, potion of water breathing, spell scroll of level 2nd or 3rd. Ooh, that would be super useful. If Leah could get our hands on the fireball scroll, that'd be really good. Everybody needs a back pocket fireball if you're a wizard. So yeah, let's just ask that. Let's just ask it straight up. Is it a scroll of fireball? Yes. Nice. Alright, I'm going to just add that to her inventory real quick. Nice. So now, we got a D&D low-level back pocket nuke. So that'll be useful for us. Why is it in here? Don't know. We're in here. We might as well search the freaking room for some other treasure. There might be some other stuff in here. Actually, we already made a good investigation on it. If there are any secrets, we do know what the secrets are. But let's figure out what the exits to the room are first. So let's roll some d6. 3. 1, 2, 3. Alright, so we're going to have one way out that way. Oh, actually, no, I rolled a 1. Sorry. And that's exactly how we got into this room. So this room is, looks like a dead end. Unless there's an exit. There could be secrets and exits. We made a good roll. So let's see. So left we already know heads back the way we came. Straight ahead. Nothing. To the right. Nothing. Back. Nothing. Down. Nothing. And above us. Nothing. Okay, yeah. So unfortunately we ran into a dead end here. So this is as far as this passage goes. Unfortunately, we're still stuck in the room though. The problem is that now we have to get back across the chasm. We got the one thing in here we wanted. But now we have to get back across the chasm. But that's going to be a problem for next time me. Not this time me. So that is where I'm going to call it. Thanks guys for hanging out with me. And for going through this sort of insane Dungeon Delver 2. If you like all this content, obviously, if this is the first time you've seen it, I don't know what you're doing. This is like session 30 something. You should go back and watch the whole thing. I've got a playlist from the very first session where we're sort of building the sandbox and building the characters, and you can catch up on everything that's gotten us to this point. So go check that out if you're looking for this sort of solo RPG. You want to see how it works, want to see it in action. This is a really great way to do that. You can go check that out on the channel. You can also follow me over on Twitter, Red Ragged Fiend. We have the blog website, redragonfiend.com, if you want to check that out. So I have a coffee link and a DriveThruRPG stuff. You can find that all in the description. If you have the ability to throw a few dollars at us, would be things. One of the things I'd like to do, maybe if I get enough money, is I'd like to replace doing this where I'm mapping it by hand. I wanted a way to put it on the screen, so I'd like to have a nice little Wacom like bamboo tablet or something. I just didn't, there wasn't right now a really great way to do that. I'd love to be able to do that in the future, so any sort of dollars you kind of throw at me kind of goes towards stuff like that. So if you have some money to throw, that's also great. If you don't and you still like to support the show, best thing you can do is like, subscribe, and most importantly share. So share it on social media, share it on Reddit, share this series on your preferred tabletop RPG forum. Throw a link, see if other people like it. It really helps the channel out, helps me out. I think that's mainly it. Next time we do an on-off, if this is your first time. So we do usually the solo RPG session, then I do some other, primarily Dungeon Master, Game Master related content, so kind of switch off every week. So if you like that stuff, check it out. We have a whole bunch of videos. I always have fun with this. I never know when this is going to go. I really kind of backed myself into a corner with this last room, mainly because I felt like we were getting off. I felt like we got off scot-free in that null room, and then just taking a little bit of damage in the gymnasium. I felt like we needed to kind of bump up the threat level, so then I maybe went a little overboard for us. So we're gonna have to figure that out. Figure out how to get the heck out of this room and back to where we were. And as soon as we backtrack, there's more likelihood that we'll run into wandering monsters and all sorts of crazy stuff. So if you like this stuff, make sure to subscribe and check out the rest of the content that we have on the channel. But that's going to be it for me. Always fun. Thanks for hanging out with me, guys, and I'll see you guys next time. Alright? Bye.